Welcome to Legacy Magazine presents The Business of Black Business, a talk show that interviews Black entrepreneurs and advocates for Black businesses. Topics include access to capital, best business practices, success stories, and more. Now introducing our host, Jay Reynolds.
Hello, and welcome again to the business of Black business. Now, are you an emerging minority or women-owned business that would like to do business or compete for government contracts? Well, today is your lucky day, because today we get to hear about $980 million of opportunity with Miami-Dade Public Schools. And that's exactly right. That's you heard the numbers right. $980 million, almost $1 billion of opportunities that are happening right now as we speak today. Hello, again, my name is Jay Reynolds. I own WolfCreek Consulting. We are a top-ranked executive staffing firm that specializes in placing professionals in finance, accounting, and IT. This is the business of Black business, a show that's designed to help people like you, Black entrepreneurs or would-be Black entrepreneurs, to help them to get information, to help them to launch and to scale up their business. It's a unique opportunity to gain access to hear directly from successful business owners or people in the industry that basically can help you to scale. I want you to be able to hear from them. I want you to be in the room where it happens. This is an opportunity to do that. And before we get started, always have to thank the people that make this happen. First of all, I want to thank Legacy Magazine for making this important. DeMesman and Dover Personal Injury Attorneys, Career Source South Florida, FAMU, Medical Marijuana Educators and Research Institute, Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County, and AARP. You guys have supported this program for over a year now, so thank you very much. We really appreciate it, and we could not do this without you. Today, babysitters, ladies and gentlemen, we get to hear from Charisma Montfort. I'm really looking forward to this discussion for a lot of reasons, because of the fact that I've been an entrepreneur in this marketplace for a long time. And these are the kinds of things that are game changers for any small business. So we get to talk to one of the decision makers within that whole process. Now, I don't read bios, Charisma, but I will read some stuff from your bio, right? Because it's important. Charisma Montfort oversees the procurement process required for acquisition of goods and services for Miami-Dade public schools. She has 11 years of experience in strategic business operations with expertise specifically in education, public procurement, compliance, and contract management. Charisma has a bachelor's degree in history from Grinnell College in Iowa. Charisma went on to pursue her master's degree in organizational development and knowledge management from Georgia Mason University. And if that wasn't enough, she went back and got a second master's degree in educational leadership from St. Thomas University in Miami, Florida. So Charisma, thank you very much for being here. I know you have a lot going on, so I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Now, what's important to me is that people understand exactly who you are, right? So do me a big favor. Why don't you introduce yourself to the viewers? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about your background, what you want people to know, who your influencers were, and really kind of sort of what makes you, you.
Yeah. So Charisma, currently serving as the Interim Chief Procurement Officer with Miami-Dade County Public Schools. I was raised in Washington, D.C., and I've been in the South Florida area for about 6 years now. My whole focus in general with going to school for my bachelor's to the 2 master's degrees has always been about building and developing a skill set. So I knew that I would need to impact in some way, and I wanted to impact on the education front. Initially going and thinking more so about education policy, but then I realized at a point that I was really good at business. So I wanted to take that and take my skills and put them and piece it all together. And I kind of just found a groove when it came into compliance and contract management, which is kind of how I ended here in procurement in Miami. some influencers. I had a really great professor at Grinnell College who was very big on social justice and not equality, but equity.
Got
So
it.
and a lot of people don't realize the differences, but like the equity. So
Yeah, exactly.
if we don't have the same, we aren't starting with the same apples to apples review. We need to make sure that, you know, we at least be able to get to the same levels. And then I had a grandmother, not had, she's still alive, very much alive, very
Awesome.
the
That's good news.
84-year-old grandmother who taught for 42 years. And one of the things that she taught us was to, whatever you do in whatever capacity, make sure you have a passion for it.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that she wrote a living will, like maybe like 10 or 15 years ago, where she said she wanted to teach as many Black people how to read as much as possible. So as many Black adults who didn't know how to read, she wanted to spend her last years making sure that they knew how to read, because for her, education was a gateway and was how you made your way through to equity. So it was about building your intellect. So that's just a very small snippet of who I am. I'm a mother of two. So I spend my quality time with my daughters and just trying to help.
Cool. That's actually a great story. Thank you very much for sharing that, for being making that personal. As an interim director of procurement, why don't you share with us what your roles and your responsibilities are?
So a lot of people don't realize that the procurement function is very prescriptive, specifically in the state of Florida. So my primary role is to ensure that there is fair and equitable practices being applied in the areas of procurement. So when we go to purchase, and I am specific to the goods and services side, the way Miami-Dade County Public Schools is currently structured is that you have goods and services and you have construction related procurement.
Right.
So for goods and services, it's more so ensuring that we are following the state statutes as well as our school board policy and are in compliance with the policy for evaluation and the acquisition of goods and services. So very high level.
Yeah, but it's a 30,000 foot view, but it certainly is a pretty good indication of what you do, description of what you do. Why don't you talk to us? Everybody's really curious to know about the $980 million. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that? Tell us about how it came about. Tell us what the goals and the end results are supposed to be. Why don't you give us your thoughts about that?
So I'll give you the disclaimer up front. This is an advertised solicitation that is currently under our cone of silence. So I'll be able to speak very high level on the legal advertisement that was released. I'd highly encourage everyone, if you are able to attend the pre-bid conference. That is an opportunity. It is in person, short notice, but it is tomorrow at 9 a.m. at the school board in the auditorium. But it is an opportunity where the cone of silence is lifted, where you can really ask some questions, specifically with the content experts, what it is that we're looking for. But overall, we're looking for program management support services. We are currently going out for a new contract. We do have a contract that is currently in place. You have an opportunity to request information through our public records request process if you need that information. But we are hoping to get one or more firms to come in and provide program management support services. So we are looking to procure professionals that are within the categories of design and construction professionals to come in and be able contractor pre-qualification professionals that can provide project scoping and scheduling, estimating. So we are looking for agencies or firms that can come in and be able to help us provide professionals in those categories. What's extremely important in terms of this particular advertisement, so number one, the deadline is October 28th, 2022. And we are only accepting electronic submissions. So if you are not familiar with Demand Star and you are a business, you should definitely get familiar if you want to do government procurement, because there are several agencies in the South Florida area that do use that platform.
Yep.
So that is definitely something that you want to become familiar with. But the one other thing that I wanted to note was that this particular solicitation has some mandatory goals. So for 15% of the total contract value, as you've seen, it's mandatory SBE, MBE sub-consulting goals. And for up to 10%, there's a mandatory of the total contract value, mandatory MWBE sub-consulting goals for those that are African-American, Native American, Asian American, and non-minority women-owned firms. So it's extremely important for you to not only attend a pre-bid conference to get information, but it's also an opportunity if you are a company that can't take on a $980 million project. Obviously, this is over a 5-year period. But if you can't take that on, then you want to explore opportunities to partner with larger organizations, because especially if you have the certifications or the credentials or are eligible, it is definitely an opportunity for you.
Got it. Well, you mentioned the closing date again.
Yeah.
Why don't you talk a little bit more about the closing date? And another thing that you and I talked about this a little bit backstage, but when you have a scenario where you have, and I don't know to the degree that you can actually get into this, stop me if you can. You have situations where you have construction companies versus professional services companies and stuff like that. If you have one or two construction companies that gets a significant part of this, that knocks out the 15% to some degree. Is that correct? I mean, am I correct in thinking that? And how do we do this in such a way we make sure that it's not all just going to construction companies and large janitorial services and things like that? Because I hear that all the time. It's a concern of mine, but I hear it all the time from people that call me to talk to me, and that's one of the things that the gripes and the moans and the groans that they have is that, hey, look, we're an accounting firm, or we're architects, or we're whatever, but we can't get a piece of this pie.
Yeah. So a couple of things that come to mind. So the way that Miami-Dade County Public Schools is split is into two. So like there's the goods and services side that does procurement, and there is the construction side that does procurement. So I oversee the goods and services side. And for this particular construction related procurement, I am facilitating this process as well. But there is the goods and services side. $500 million per year we spend every year across. Okay. So that just kind of gives you an idea of there's money there to be made as well. You have to kind of know what to look for. So one of the things that continues to come up is just the naming mechanisms, right? Instead of seeing a name and automatically assuming, oh, this is just a construction, or this is not in my sphere, look at the actual scope and see if there's a piece that you can actually get in. So one of the things that we talked about was staffing services, for example. We have several solicitations that fall in the realm of staffing services, but you wouldn't necessarily know about the name. So you have to, if you can, and many of the pre-bid conferences are virtually, 1 hour, log in, listen in, does it make sense, does it not make sense, log off, or just read through. So I know the documents can be intimidating. Most of the time they're like 60 and 70 pages on the goods and services side. So construction functions a little bit different. But on the goods and services side, you'll see a 70-page document. You're like, I don't want to read through 70 pages. Go through the table of contents, look for scope of services.
Exactly.
In the first 2 paragraphs, you'll see what we're looking for. So the naming mechanisms, like, for example, nursing services. We really just looked for agencies that could staff nurses in the schools in different capacities. But it says nursing services, so it doesn't say staffing. Psychological services. We were looking for psychologists to be staffed in our schools, but it doesn't say staffing services. You really kind of have to know how to navigate in terms of looking through the document to see. And yes, there's opportunity in construction, and a lot of people gravitate to construction because they assume that's where the big bucks are, but there's money to be made on the other side as well.
Exactly.
So that's extremely important to know. Most of the time with construction projects, they're very specific. So they may only need a certain component for the janitorial component, or the larger company to come in and manage the entire project, and they're only like a percentage for like a smaller or a local company. So that might be, though you might have those opportunities on construction. But like I said, if you want a project where you can own it, have it, and get the piece, I definitely encourage you to look on the goods and services side and be ready.
Right. I got to tell you, I mean, that's really good. That's really good information, because I will tell you, I've done this for a long time, and I have specifically tried have targeted or focused in on understanding state and local governments. And I've learned some things from you today that I didn't know. That basically you have to not necessarily look for your own buzzwords or your own, your own jargon. you have to read these things a little deeper than you do, and you're going to come across opportunities that you would not necessarily have known.
Correct.
For people that are just kind of like starting off or just getting involved in this, how are they pre-qualified, or how do they get involved with this in terms of being pre-qualified for being able to bid on a contract with the school board?
So it really depends on what it is that we're looking for. Certain solicitations require that you have certain certifications or licensures, or even pre-qualification through our construction team. But others just require that you are a licensed business with a local business tax receipt. So it's really important, again, to look at the minimum qualifications and determine if you're eligible within a certain area or not. What we do offer, and I always like to give the plug for it, in conjunction with the Office of Economic Opportunity, is a supplier development program.
Right.
So the purpose of that program is for a company or agency or a person is like, hey, I want to start a business, but I don't know where to start. And they'll walk you through like your business plan, benchmarking. I believe there are some corporations that do join and help and talk about funding. And I teach a 6-hour course on understanding the terms and conditions and bids, because that is kind of the number one issue, especially with like a smaller company who doesn't have a grant writer, right? Because a lot of these large companies, they pay someone. They have one person that's dedicated to writing all of their solicitations. That's how you know.
Exactly,
you know, they come in one way.
Yeah.
So who doesn't have a grant writer, but you need some help and some support to get going. So like I'll walk you through what each thing means and then how to submit. So in this case of this solicitation, this is how you want to submit, because then it's easier for someone to understand and know. Or you want to make sure that your executive summary tells the right narrative for what it is that you're looking for, because outside looking in, I'm a facilitator of the process. But if I'm in an RFP, for example, with the selection committee, they're subject matter experts in their area. So if you don't point them to the goal, they can't get to the goal.
And
so
if you're not speaking the language, you have to be talking. You have to be speaking the language. If you're not speaking the language, you're on the outside looking in.
Correct.
Because these people, to the point that you make, Charisma, are subject matter experts in that field, and that is the language they're speaking. So you have to make sure that you are doing that. And one of the things that I'll also add, that you mentioned kind of backstage, is that you have that cohort program, but you have a program perhaps that somewhere down the road you might be able to do for companies that are more evolved. Because what happens is that
I'm looking to build that program, a component of it out to pretty much let's get to the bid. So really digging into like what it is that you're missing when it comes to the writing of the bids and in your specific area. And then navigating Miami-Dade County Public Schools can be a little bit cumbersome. Like some people get very frustrated. They don't understand. And it's just a simple conversation. Step A, step B, step C. Here's a route you can take. Here's a route you can take, depending on what it is that your agency does.
Got it.
Yeah.
Last thing I was going to ask you about that is that in terms of who can bid on these contracts and who can actually bid on these contracts. You spoke about that a little bit earlier, but I think that it makes sense now to even kind of share that again. Who can actually bid on these contracts?
So anyone can bid on a contract. So any person across the nation can bid on a contract. To be eligible for the actual points or percentages for small business enterprises, micro business enterprises, minority women business enterprise, African American, Hispanic American, Native American, Asian American, that we have all these categories, right? To be eligible, you just have to be in Miami-Dade County, Broward County, or West Palm Beach, and go through our Office of Economic Opportunity and go through the application process. So before it was just Miami-Dade County, we have expanded. There's reciprocity with Broward County and Palm Beach. So go ahead and work with that team.
And that's important to note, because everybody doesn't know that. Because, again, having done this for a while, it used to be the 3 separate school systems or 3 separate counties, and you had to have certifications in all 3 of them. Now there's a reciprocal agreement now between all 3 that allows you to be able to do them. And I got to tell you, that's huge. That was a huge barrier for small companies who didn't have the time or the bandwidth to be able to do that in all counties. And you guys have removed that. I just think that that's huge. Let's talk a little bit about minority-owned companies and women-owned companies regarding this process. are there any advantages for, you mentioned it a little bit, but I sometimes there's so much information coming from these podcasts that it's like drinking from a fire hose, right? So I know I'm asking you some of the same questions twice.
No, but you're fine.
Okay. But what are the advantages for minority and women-owned companies regarding this process? Because I know there's obviously a point system, but kind of go through that again so that people understand how
the overall
they
goal
can benefit
is equity, right? So we had a disparity study that identified certain groups of categories where there was disparity, where there were other companies getting more than others. So what we do is we establish, we go to what we consider a goal setting committee, and we make recommendations based on each solicitation, and we look at the market and we look at how many firms are in that market that are certified within certain categories, and the group established goals. So I sit on the committee as one of the voting members as well. And we establish goals for each of the solicitations. So say, for example, and I'll give you two examples, a bid, which is the ITB, which is more price specific. And I'll give you an example of an RFP, which is more best value specific. So it's based on a criteria of points, not just pricing. So if it were price related, right? And the goal setting committee were to say that they established that African-American firms, this is a group, this is a commodity where African-American firms, there are a number of certified African-American firms, and we would like to have 5% price preference for African-American firms for this specific item, a pencil, right? Company A is not an African-American firm and submits for $1 for a pencil. Company B submits, they're an African-American firm certified with our office, and they submit for $1 as well. Company B wins because how we look at it from an evaluation standpoint is that Company B is submitting with 95 cents versus the $1 for Company A, but we pay the $1 to Company B. Right. That is what price preference looks like, and that is why it's important to get certified. And the more people that certified, the more we are able to create those goals and shelter certain markets. So the more you certify, the better, like the more we are able to benchmark with our data to establish the goals. And then for an RFP, we're gonna same thing, but we'll say a pencil program where they provide a certain amount of pencils and they donate back, etc. It's more expanded. So there's more criteria than just pricing, right? So if the total points came up to, and there's 5-point preference for the certified firm, Company A would only be able to get maximum 95 points. And then Company B would come at 100 points. So the maximum is 100 points. So no matter what, if all other things being equal, Company B would win that based on the criteria.
Got it.
That's very low level how it works.
Yeah, but it explains it. It says, hey, look, we're making an attempt to level the playing field, right?
Right.
You certainly have more. You have the Company B, I guess, is the number. You have is the letter. You have more hurdles, you know. So this is an opportunity for us to level the playing field. Correct. What about insurance? What about insurance for companies? Because many people get excited about insurance and bonds and stuff like that, especially small companies that want to get into this space.
Let me speak a little bit more. I'll talk a little bit more on the goods and services side. We don't do a lot of performance-related bonds.
Okay.
But we do require insurance. And the insurance is specific to what it is that we're looking for. And we try to be as minimal as possible, understanding that there are some hurdles when it comes to insurance. So the requirements will change based on what it is that we're looking for in a solicitation.
Got it. Yeah, and exactly. And it's in most cases, it's going to be the normal stuff that you would carry anyway.
Very, nothing that will be crazy or out of the way.
Exactly. Yeah. In some cases, depending upon the company you're in, you may have to raise the limits a little bit, but it's not. It is not a barrier. It's not a financial burden to do that if you go to an insurance company.
One thing to note about insurance is, because we get this a lot, the way that our solicitations are written on the goods and services side, if you submit your bid and you don't have the limits just yet, you just have to show proof of your ability to get a certificate of insurance. If you are awarded, that's when you would have to present, because we understand there's a cost sometimes that is associated with it, because we ask that you name us as additionally insured.
Absolutely.
So if you're recommended for award, it is at that point then you would need to provide the certificate of insurance with all of the things that we've asked for and us being identified as additionally insured. So sometimes that is something that will stop a company from submitting, saying, I don't have this, or I can't get this, or I don't have the funds, etc. For submission, you can just submit. There's language upon award. So again, you have to read the documents to understand it, or go to the pre-bid conferences and ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And a lot of people just say, hey, look, well, you know what I always tell people? This one thing, hey, in order to win it, you got to be in it, right?
Yeah.
You have to be in it. You have to go through the motions. And even if you don't win it, I promise you, you're going to learn something. You're going to learn something. You're going to increase the opportunities for yourself. And sometimes people say, well, you know, I've done this three or four times and I've never won. Okay, maybe the fifth time is the charm, right? Or the sixth time is the charm.
And ask for feedback.
Yeah, exactly.
I get it all the time. Like I'll get a company that will reach out and say, hey, we didn't get the award. Can we schedule some time to talk through what it is that we missed? That happened with one company that went through supplier development and they fixed what they missed. And they got awarded months down the line. So sometimes like you just have to be, you know, dust yourself off and try again.
Yeah, I did that with the Tampa airport. We were in the final set. We find the final three companies, right? And we presented the final three companies, and we didn't get it. And bottom line is that we requested not a hearing, but a discussion to take a look at it. And they take that quite seriously too. I might add, it's not a small thing. It's them being really, really trying to make sure they give you as much information and much feedback as possible. And as a result of that feedback we got, the company that won that thing should have gotten it. They were absolutely dead on, the company that should have gotten it. However, there were things that we did as it relates to going forward that changed. It just changed our presentation to the point in time where it just made us stronger. So I tell people all the time, hey, ask for the for the review. Just ask for it, and people are very gracious in those positions, and they will give you the time. They have to schedule it, and it may take a couple of weeks for you to get it, but you'll be able to get it. Last couple of questions I want to ask you is just about things that you guys have coming forward that you can talk about. What are some of the things that are coming forward that you can actually put out there that people should put on their radar?
Hold on.
It's like that, right?
Let me switch gears. I just want to make sure that I give you exactly as it's coming. So
okay.
So I do have a couple of things. Well, we do have a couple of things that are out. So we have an online registration and lottery system that's currently out. But what's upcoming? Auditorium seating, petroleum products, classroom supplies and equipment. I have a telephone repair and equipment solicitation that's coming up. Food service paper products, that's going to be a big one. An HVAC and controls, so the services side, and then an HVAC parts and supplies. That one has some pretty strong goals. So that one is also coming out, as well as an elevator service contract solicitation. So we have a couple things coming out.
Cool. Great. Hey, thanks for sharing that. And they can actually go to your website and pull that stuff up, or Demand Star and pull that stuff up as well.
So we post when it hits. We post. Yep.
Yeah. So with that being said, I really, really appreciate your time. And before I let you go, I just have to kind of pay the bills around here. So if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of thank the sponsors, and I'll go off for a second. But first of all, again, I got to always say this is Dexter's brainchild, Legacy Magazine. Thank you, Dexter, for making this important. And Leah and you, the whole team, you guys do an amazing job. So thank you for making this important. Demesman Dover Personal Injury Attorneys. Victor, thank you for all you do to support small businesses, small Black businesses, as well as HBCUs. You do a good job there. You put your money where your mouth is. Career Source South Florida. Each and every week, Career South Florida lists a lot of different jobs on their website. And some of these jobs are really, really great jobs that could be life-changing positions. And I'd like to go through some of them for you guys. There's a restaurant manager position, $25 an hour, an employee security rep, $21 an hour, a brewer, $18 an hour. I probably drink more than I work. People and culture coordinator, $15 an hour, aircraft mechanic, $15 an hour, transportation security officer, $15 an hour, groundskeeper, $13, line cook, $13 an hour, photo tech, $13 an hour, and a hostess, $10 an hour. The cool thing is that each and every week, Career Source South Florida changes these positions. You can apply for them online, and there's a really good opportunity for you to get one of those positions, and maybe it's life-changing. FAMU Medical Marijuana Education and Research Institute, Solid Waste Authority of Palm Beach County. Thank you guys. You guys have all been, and AARP, you guys have all been sponsors of this podcast for over a year. So thank you very much for doing that. And then finally, tune into some of the other shows, but some of the other shows that we have during the week. Obviously, my show is every Monday at 1 p.m., The Business of Black Business. On Tuesday, My Money, Your Money with Bridget Lumpkin. Wednesday, Soul with Nikki Geelan at 7 p.m. Thursdays, Lunch with Legacy Leaders with Anne-Marie Sorrell. On The Taste of Florida, it's at 7 p.m. also on Thursdays. And Black Health, hosted by Dr. Michelle Kerwin on Fridays at 2 p.m. All great shows, all amazing talents. And every time I watch one of those guys' shows, I certainly learn something. So please tune in. And just back to you, Charisma. First of all, it was great to meet you. I've heard a lot about you before, and it was great to finally meet you. And secondly, keep doing the things that you're doing, because you're absolutely making a difference. I know you have challenges. We need that 15% to go to 30 at some point in time. That's set aside to go to like 30%. And one of these other days, I'll get that phone call and say, Miami-Dade just went to 30%. But I appreciate everything that you do, and thanks for making it so easy to understand. The information that you imparted today it's a lot like drinking from a fire hose for somebody who's never done it before, right?
Yeah.
So thank you for making it so very easy to understand. Now, before I let you go, the last thing I want to do is this. I want you to leave us with three thoughts. Let's call it secret sauce. Three of your three thoughts, or three things that you think would be important for people to know. You get the last word.
So the first thing is that never be afraid to step outside of your comfort zone. So a lot of times you have businesses, I only do this, I only do this, I only do this. But sometimes getting your foot in the door means trying to do something a little different. So focus on your capacity and not necessarily on your commodity. So that's very important. To just doing your homework, doing your research. So we're in Florida. You can do public records requests left and right, get all the information that you need to get, and do your research in advance so that you are competitive, so that when you do come in, you're not completely out of whack. So we've had several instances where you're like an hourly rate for one company is like $100 more than the next, and we just can't understand. So make sure you benchmark.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, just have faith that things will work out, because sometimes you have to just believe in your company, believe in yourself, believe that things will work out. And that's something that I definitely am very strong. Huge principle of mine. I just have faith that things will always work out. So I feel like as long as I'm a good person,
Yeah.
it will always come back.
Yeah, as long as you're doing the right things and you're grinding every day, and I call it around here, you show up and you lace up and you play.
Yeah.
If you show up, you lace up and you play, and you do the right things, everything is going to be okay. So for me, that's 1, 2, and 3. And again, hey, Charisma, thank you very much for your time. I really enjoyed talking to you, and
Thank you.
keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference. So I really appreciate that. And Dexter, you guys, Leah, again, thanks for all you do. Thanks for making this make a lot of sense. I always say, if it is to be, it's up to me. And I strongly believe that. So again, this is the Business of Black Business. My name is Jay Reynolds, WolfCreek Consulting. We are a top-ranked executive staffing firm. And I get to see you again next Monday at the same time, 1 p.m. Thanks again, Charisma.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.